Hello, and welcome back to Wild Sanative. In the last video, I shared a series of synchronicities that led me to meet someone who would eventually become an important part of my healing journey. Her name was Blanca. At the time, I knew very little about spirituality, or energy healing, or any of the things she would eventually teach me. If I'm being really honest, what drew me to her was something very simple. I was a grieving mother, I was desperate to connect with my son, and Blanca was a medium and I wanted answers. But I also had a very logical side to me. I wasn't willing to believe something simply because someone told me it was true. I remember thinking that if this is real, she would have to tell me something that nobody could know, something only I would know, something that could not be guessed, and she did. She shared things that convinced me there was something authentic taking place. But what surprised me most was that the sessions were not only about connecting with my son, they were also about me. Every session contained guidance about my grief, my healing, my life. And at the end of each session, she would do energy work. At the time, I had absolutely no understanding of what energy healing was. All I knew was that when I got off that table, I somehow felt a little lighter, a little calmer, a little better, and I couldn't explain why. But I noticed it, so I continued. At the same time, I was still seeing my chiropractor every week. I was receiving medical massage therapy twice a month, and my body was carrying enormous amounts of pain. My back hurt, my shoulders hurt. Some days it was painful to just walk. Some days it hurt too much to be touched. What I began learning through those experiences was something I had never considered before. The body remembers. Painful memories, grief, fear, and stress can settle into us in ways we do not always understand. Looking back, I can see the years of emotional pain had become stored within me. At the time, I did not fully understand it. I only knew that something was beginning to shift. Then one day, I saw a post on Blanca's social media page. She was advertising a shamanic apprenticeship. I had absolutely no idea what that meant. I did not know what shamanism was. I did not know what an apprenticeship would involve, but something inside of me was deeply drawn to it. So without overthinking it, I clicked the button and signed up. I remember thinking I have no idea what this is, but I like learning new things. And at the very least, it will keep my mind occupied. Little did I know, it would become one of the most important experiences of my life. The first class surprised me. Blanca began sharing her own story. She spoke about loss, about grief, and she spoke about her daughter Brenda, who had passed away in her early 20s. In that moment, she became more than a teacher. She became someone who understood, not intellectually, not professionally, but personally. She knew what it felt like to lose a child. She knew the pain I was carrying every day, and that made her teachings land differently. As the classes continued, Blanca began introducing us to the principles of shamanism. She taught us about the 4 directions, spirit animals, ceremonies, fire rituals, sacred tools, practices used by ancient traditions for generations. Some of it was completely unfamiliar to me. But it was not the ceremonies that stayed with me the most. It was the principles. Reverence, compassion, commitment, discipline, humility. Learning to become the observer of my own thoughts, emotions, and reactions. These ideas struck something deep within me, not because they were strange, but because they felt familiar. In a world I grew up in, some people might call these virtues. Others might call them ethics. Some might recognize them as values found within codes of conduct, religious teachings, or philosophical traditions. Yet here they are again, appearing within ancient teachings that had existed for generations. I remember asking myself a simple question. If these principles are so important, why are they not taught more often? Why do we spend years learning mathematics, history, and science, yet so little time learning about how to cultivate compassion, how to practice humility, how to observe our emotions rather than become consumed by them, how to develop discipline over our thoughts and actions, how to live with reverence for life itself, The more I listened, the more I realized these teachings were not really about becoming something new. They were about becoming something more conscious, more aware, more responsible for the energy choices and actions we bring into the world. I had grown up with a connection to Christ. I prayed, I made my sacraments, not because someone forced me to, but because something inside me wanted to. As a child, I felt drawn toward church, even though my family was not actively involved. I remember reading a children's book about the life of Christ. When I reached the story of his crucifixion, I cried. I remember wondering how people could be so cruel. How could they hurt someone who was trying to help others? And decades later, I still remember that feeling. I get emotional thinking about it. Looking back now, I realize that much of my spiritual life was guided by intuition. I followed what resonated, what felt true, what called to me, and not because someone told me to, because something deep within me recognized it. As I sat in Blanca's classes, I began to realize healing is bigger than one tradition, bigger than any one label, bigger than any one belief system. Truth has a way of revealing itself through many doors, and for me, this was one of those doors. At the time, I thought I had signed up to learn something new. What I did not realize was that I had signed up to begin meeting myself, and that journey was only just the beginning. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, remember, sometimes the healing we need arrives disguised as something we never expected to find.